This episode is an ESL listening practice for intermediate learners. You will hear a natural conversation with clear pronunciation and everyday English. No tests, no pressure, just listening. Let's start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to ESL Listening Practice.
It's great to be back.
I'm so happy you're joining us today. This show is designed specifically for you, the intermediate learner, the B2 level speaker. Our goal here is pretty simple, but I think ambitious.
I'd say so.
We want to have a relaxed, natural conversation between two native speakers to help you improve your listening stamina, pick up some useful high-level vocabulary, and maybe most importantly,
Gain that confidence.
gain the confidence you need to actually use your voice out in the real world. So today, we aren't just reviewing grammar rules or, memorizing vocabulary lists.
No, not at all.
We're having a vital conversation about a specific phrase, a habit really, that millions of learners say every single day. It's something that might be holding you back without you even realizing it.
We're looking at a specific behavior that we see constantly in our students and in English learners all over the world.
A behavior that seems polite.
It seems polite on the surface, and I think most people intend it to be polite, but underneath, it's actually quite destructive to your progress and your mindset.
Exactly. We're talking about the sorry reflex.
The sorry reflex. I like that.
It's that moment when you walk into a room, or maybe you log on to a Zoom call for work, or perhaps you're just ordering a coffee in a foreign country. You open your mouth to speak, and before you even finish your first sentence.
Sometimes before you even start it.
Right. Before you even get to the main point, you say, sorry for my English.
It is ubiquitous. I mean, it happens everywhere. And the irony of this situation is profound.
It really is.
I have been in rooms with incredibly intelligent, capable professionals who are speaking English as a second or even third language. I'm talking about engineers, doctors, software developers.
People at the top of their fields.
Absolute experts. They are communicating complex ideas, they're navigating difficult social situations, and their grammar is actually quite good.
Sometimes it's better than good.
Sometimes it's even close to advanced, yet the first thing they do is apologize. They undercut their own authority and their own ability immediately. It's like buying a high-performance sports car and then apologizing that it might get a flat tire before you even drive it off the lot.
That's the heartbreaking part, isn't it? You hear someone who is clearly communicating well, yet they feel this intense need to apologize for their existence in the language.
Yeah.
So today, we're going to unpack this completely. We're going to look at why people do this, why it's actually harmful to your progress, which might be surprising to some of you, and most importantly, how we can stop. Because if you want to reach that next level of fluency, you have to drop the apology.
We have to. And we have to understand the root cause before we can fix the behavior. This isn't just about being polite.
No.
If you look at the psychology behind the apology, it's rooted in discomfort. It's rooted in fear. When a learner says, sorry for my English, they aren't usually apologizing for a specific mistake they just made.
Right. It's almost always at the beginning.
Usually right at the beginning. They're apologizing for the potential of making a mistake. They are apologizing for the anxiety they feel inside.
That distinction is so important. It's a preemptive strike.
It is.
So let's talk about those specific anxieties. When we look at what learners are actually worried about, it usually boils down to a few specific things. There's the fear of grammar mistakes, obviously.
That's the classic one, the big one.
We all remember the red pen from our school days. But there's also a deep insecurity about having an accent, or the stress of not finding that perfect word instantly.
Right. It's that pause, that split second where your brain is searching for the vocabulary word for spreadsheet or reservation. And in that silence, the panic sets in.
Oh, yeah.
You feel like the silence is lasting for an hour, even if it's only 2 seconds. You feel like you're failing.
And you assume everyone is judging you in that 2-second pause.
They're not, but it feels that way. And honestly, we have to look at where the standard of perfection comes from. We don't just wake up one day thinking we need to speak like a British news anchor. This pressure is external before it becomes internal.
That's a good point.
We have to look at what I call the Hollywood standard.
Oh, the Hollywood standard. This is a huge factor. Think about the media we consume.
Everything.
We watch movies, we binge watch TV shows on Netflix, we scroll through social media. In all of these mediums, we are presented with a version of English that is Hyper-polished?
It's completely scripted.
Right. The characters always have the perfect witty comeback. They never stutter. They never forget a word.
They speak in complete complex paragraphs without taking a breath.
Yeah.
Exactly. Take a show like Suits or The West Wing.
Yeah.
These characters are incredibly articulate, but that's not reality.
It's not even close to reality.
That is a room full of Harvard-educated writers spending a week perfecting a single page of dialogue. But as a learner, you consume this content and you subconsciously set this artificial bar for yourself.
You don't even realize you're doing it.
You don't. You compare your unscripted, messy, real-time reality with someone else's scripted, edited fiction. And that comparison leads to some very damaging internal beliefs.
So you start telling yourself, what?
You start telling yourself, my English isn't good enough because I hesitated, or I will sound stupid because I couldn't find the word immediately. You internalize the sense of failure.
That fear of judgment is paralyzing. And that brings us back to why we apologize. We discussed this idea of the apology as a shield.
Yes.
I think this is such a fascinating way to look at it. When a learner says, sorry for my English, they are trying to lower expectations, aren't they? They're trying to protect themselves.
That is exactly it. It's a defense mechanism. The logic, and it's often subconscious logic, goes like this. If I tell you right now that my English is bad, then you can't be disappointed when I make a mistake later.
I've already warned you.
I've warned you. It's a way of managing the listener's expectations to avoid criticism. You're essentially saying, please don't judge me. I already know I'm not perfect.
Right.
But the reality, and this is what we need to really drive home today, is that this fear is almost entirely in your head. It is an internal battle, not an external reality.
Let's talk about that external reality.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the people you are actually speaking to.
The listeners.
Section 2 of our discussion today is all about the myth of the native speaker judge. I love this title because it really paints a picture of how learners view us. Many learners imagine that every native speaker is walking around with a mental scoreboard, just waiting to mark down every error.
It's a terrifying image, isn't it? The native speaker as the strict school teacher.
With a red pen in hand.
But it's a complete myth. We need to do a reality check here. First of all, think about the linguistic landscape of English-speaking countries like the US or the UK. Many, many native speakers are monolingual.
A surprising number, actually.
They only speak English. When they meet someone who can speak a second language, even imperfectly, their primary reaction isn't judgment, it's awe. They are impressed.
That is so true. If I meet someone who speaks English as a second language, my first thought isn't, oh, they used the wrong preposition.
Of course not.
My first thought is, wow, this person is navigating the world in a completely different code than their mother tongue. That is incredibly difficult.
We respect the effort.
We really do.
I often think about when I travel and try to speak a few words of the local language. I'm struggling, and if someone helps me, I don't judge their English. I'm just grateful we can communicate.
And beyond respect, we have to look at what native speakers actually care about in a conversation.
What are we actually listening for? We are not biological machines designed to listen for syntax errors. We are not listening for verb conjugations. We are listening for information. We are listening for connection.
The message.
The message. If you are telling me a story or asking for directions or explaining a project at work, I am focused on the message. I want to know what you mean. As long as the message gets through, the grammar doesn't matter nearly as much as you think.
It's content over form.
Always.
But I want to take this a step further because I think this is the most comforting part for our listeners. We need to expose the reality of how native speakers actually speak.
Oh, yes.
We mentioned the Hollywood standard earlier, but real life isn't a movie. If you actually analyze a transcript of two native speakers having a casual conversation, it is a mess.
It's an absolute disaster from a grammatical standpoint.
How?
If you look at linguistic data of spoken English, you see it clearly. We start sentences and then change our minds halfway through. We call that a false start.
All the time.
We say, and constantly as fillers, we forget words. I mean, how many times have you been in a conversation with a native speaker and they say, oh, what's that word? It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
You know the thing.
All the time. Or we use slang that barely follows grammatical rules, or we mumble. My own family members sometimes, I have no idea what they're saying.
Precisely. So when a learner strives for 100% perfection, they are striving for a standard that even native speakers do not hold themselves to.
A standard that doesn't exist.
It doesn't. We make mistakes. We're human. Communication is a human skill, not a math test. There is no such thing as a perfect conversation. There is only an effective conversation. And effective conversations are full of pauses, restarts, and imperfections.
That is such a liberating thought.
Yeah.
You are not failing a test. You are just being human.
You're just talking.
Now, I want to pivot to something that I know creates a lot of anxiety for our listeners, perhaps even more than grammar.
Okay.
Let's talk about accents. Because for many people, the sorry for my English apology is actually code for sorry for my accent.
Yes. This is huge. There is a deep-seated belief that having an accent is a flaw, that it's an error that needs to be corrected. But we need to reframe this completely.
We have to.
An accent is not a weakness. An accent is proof. It's visible, audible proof that you have a complex history, that you know more than one language, and that you have done the hard work of learning.
The badge of honor, really. And we have to distinguish between two things here. Clear English and perfect pronunciation. These are not the same thing.
They're very different. Clear English or intelligibility is important.
It is.
If your pronunciation is so unclear that I physically cannot understand the word you're saying, if you say ship, but it sounds like sheep and the context is confusing, then yes, that hinders communication. That's something to work on.
Sure, that makes sense.
But perfect pronunciation, meaning sounding exactly like you were born in California or London, is completely unnecessary. You can be 100% intelligible, perfectly clear, and still have a very strong accent.
Can you give an example of that?
Think of someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He has a very strong Austrian accent, but he is completely intelligible and commands the room. No one asks him to repeat himself because they can't understand him.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, accents are cool. There's a cool factor here that learners often forget because they are so self-conscious.
Totally.
Think about the stereotypes we have. A French accent is often seen as sophisticated or romantic. An Italian accent sounds passionate. A Spanish accent sounds warm.
Absolutely. People find accents interesting. They find them attractive. When you speak with an accent, you are telling a story about your background and your origin before you even say a word about yourself.
It makes your English unique.
It makes your English uniquely yours.
Yeah.
If you strip away your accent completely, you are stripping away a part of your identity. So we really want to encourage our listeners to view their accent as a feature of their English, not a bug that needs to be fixed.
I love that. A feature, not a bug. It gives you character.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ensure we address the listeners who might have accents that aren't traditionally romanticized in Hollywood movies.
That's an important point.
Maybe a strong Asian accent or a Slavic accent or a Middle Eastern accent. Sometimes people feel those accents are judged more harshly.
This is an important nuance. It's true that society has biases about accents, and we can't ignore that. But the principle of clarity over perfection stands even stronger here.
How so?
If you have a strong accent, your focus should be on rhythm and stress, the music of the language, rather than getting every single vowel perfect.
The music of the language. I like that.
English is a stress-timed language. We emphasize certain syllables and swallow others. If you get the rhythm right, native speakers will understand you, even if the individual sounds are a bit off. If you get the rhythm wrong, it's very hard to understand, even if the vowels are perfect.
So focus on the music, and confidence sells the accent.
It really does.
I've heard people with very thick accents command a room because they spoke with authority and volume.
Volume is surprisingly important. When we're insecure, we tend to mumble or speak quietly. We whisper, "Sorry for my English."
Yeah, you make yourself smaller.
This makes it physically harder for the listener to hear us. And the listener says, "What?" And the learner thinks, "Oh no, they don't understand my English. My grammar is bad." But really, they just couldn't hear you.
Right. The problem wasn't your English, it was your volume.
If you speak up, project your voice, and own your accent, you instantly become more intelligible.
So part of the don't apologize challenge is also speak up. Don't whisper your English.
Broadcast it.
Exactly. Don't whisper. Broadcast it.
Okay, so we've covered the psychology, the native speaker reality, and the accent. Now, I want to get into the danger zone.
Uh-oh.
Section 4. The dangerous loop of apologizing. Because I think many people believe that saying sorry is harmless. They think it's just the polite throwaway phrase.
Right.
But you're saying it actually damages your ability to learn and perform? How does that work? It works through the mechanism of the self-fulfilling prophecy. We have to look at the message you're sending to your own brain.
Okay.
When you start a conversation by saying, "Sorry, my English is bad," you are reinforcing a negative identity. You are telling your subconscious, "I am not good enough. I am incompetent in this area."
And the brain listens?
The brain listens and it believes you. So, over time, this creates a negative feedback loop. You say you are bad, so you feel more anxiety.
Which makes it harder to speak.
Exactly. Because you feel more anxiety, your cortisol levels spike, your working memory actually shrinks when you're stressed. So you literally do become worse at finding words. You hesitate more, you second guess your words.
Wow.
And because your confidence drops, you actually speak worse than you would have if you had just been confident. You essentially talk yourself into being a worse speaker.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
You are creating the failure you were afraid of.
Precisely.
And there's another side to this loop, the social side, the paradox of the apology.
Yeah.
I've seen this happen so many times.
Me too.
A conversation is going perfectly well.
Yeah.
The learner is speaking clearly, I'm understanding everything, and suddenly they stop and apologize.
Right. And think about what that does to the listener. Before the apology, I wasn't thinking about your grammar at all.
Nope, just the content.
I was just listening to your story. But the moment you say, sorry for my English, you draw a big red circle around your language skills.
Yep.
You highlight the insecurity.
You make it the topic.
You signal to the listener, hey, there's a problem here. And suddenly I start noticing things I wouldn't have noticed before. You are introducing a problem where there wasn't one.
It's like walking into a room and saying, don't look at the stain on my shirt.
Exactly.
Everyone is going to look at the stain on your shirt. If you hadn't said anything, nobody would have noticed.
Exactly. And there is an even deeper layer to this social interaction. When you apologize, you are often shifting the dynamic in a way that is actually a bit selfish.
Selfish. That is a tough love perspective. Explain that.
It sounds harsh, but think about it. When you say, sorry for my English, you are often subconsciously asking for reassurance.
Oh.
You're fishing for a compliment. You want the other person to say, oh no, your English is fine, don't worry about it. You have hijacked the topic of the conversation.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Instead of talking about the business project or the story, we are suddenly talking about your insecurity. You are forcing the listener to do emotional labor for you.
That is a powerful shift in perspective. You're making the listener take care of your feelings instead of focusing on the communication.
Precisely. A powerful speaker focuses on the audience, not on themselves. If you focus on your audience, you want to make it easy for them. Apologizing makes it awkward. Just speaking makes it easy.
And it also changes the power dynamic, doesn't it?
Yes, it puts you in a subordinate position. When you apologize, you are asking for forgiveness. You are lowering your status relative to the person you are talking to.
Which is terrible in a business meeting.
In a business negotiation, or a job interview, or a presentation, this is deadly. You want to be an equal. You want to be a peer. If you start by apologizing for your primary mode of communication, you are handing the power over to the other person.
You're putting them above you.
You are saying, you are the judge and I am the supplicant.
And people treat you the way you treat yourself. If you treat yourself as a subordinate who makes mistakes, they will treat you that way. If you treat yourself as a competent professional who happens to be bilingual, they will treat you with respect.
It's all about framing. We teach people how to treat us.
So we need to remove the speed bumps. To do that, we need to redefine what we are actually trying to do.
Yes.
Section 5 is about the true goal of communication. I think traditional education fails us here. In school, the goal of English class is to pass the test.
Get the A+.
It's to get the grammar right. But in the real world, the goal is function, not form.
We have to move from an academic mindset to a functional mindset. The objective of learning English is not to sound like a native.
That's a huge one.
That's a vanity metric. The true goals are to share ideas, to ask questions, to connect with people, to solve problems. I like to use the waiter test.
I remember this. Explain the waiter test.
If you're in a restaurant and you ask for a glass of water, and the waiter brings you a glass of water, your English was perfect.
I love that.
It succeeded, even if you said, I want water, please, instead of the more polite, could I please have a glass of water? If the water arrived, the communication worked.
I love that definition of perfection.
Well,
did it work? Yes. Then it was perfect.
Precisely. If people understand you, your English is doing its job. We need to stop viewing language as a piece of art that sits in a museum and has to be flawless.
It's got.
Language is a tool. It's like a hammer. If you use a hammer to build a house, nobody cares if the hammer is scratched or a little rusty. They care that the house gets built.
That is a great analogy. And this brings us to the idea of rebranding mistakes. If language is a tool, then mistakes aren't failures.
No, they aren't. Mistakes are signs of usage. Mistakes are evidence that you are using the language rather than hiding from it.
Right. They show you're trying.
Every single confident speaker that you admire, whether it's a celebrity, a colleague, or a friend, they did not get there by magic. They got there by making thousands and thousands of mistakes.
Thousands.
They stumbled, they said the wrong word, they used the wrong tense, but they kept speaking. The only difference between a beginner and a master is that the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried.
That is so powerful. We need to embrace the stumble, and I think we need to accept what we call the messy middle.
The messy middle is where real learning happens. We have this idea that we go from 0 to fluent in a straight line.
Which is a fantasy.
It is, but really there's a long period, years usually, where you're good enough to understand, but maybe not good enough to be poetic. Your grammar is okay, but not perfect. That is the messy middle, and that is where you live. That is where you work.
You have to get comfortable there.
You have to get comfortable being in the mess. You have to get comfortable with ambiguity.
Comfort with ambiguity is a high-level skill.
Oh,
Okay, let's get practical. We've talked about the theory, but I want to give our listeners something to take away with them.
good idea.
Section 6, actionable mindset shifts. If we're going to stop saying, sorry for my English, we need to replace it with something else. We can't just have a void there.
Right. We need to replace the negative affirmation with a positive one. We need to change the internal script.
So what's the new script?
So the next time you feel that urge to say sorry, I want you to catch yourself, pause, and instead think, my English is good enough to communicate.
My English is good enough to communicate. I
Yeah.
like that. It's neutral, it's true, and it takes the pressure off.
Exactly. Or try this one. I am improving every time I speak.
Yeah.
This reframes the conversation from a test to a practice session.
Like going to the gym.
Every conversation is just another rep in the gym. You're getting stronger.
And one more that I think is really important. I don't need permission to use English.
That is the big one. That leads us to the concept of global ownership. We need to remember that English is not the property of the United States or the United Kingdom anymore.
Not for a long time.
It hasn't been for a long time. It's a global language. If you're using English to do business, to travel, to make friends, English is yours. You have a membership card to the club.
I like that.
You don't need to ask the doorman for permission to enter. You are already inside. You don't need to apologize for using a tool that belongs to you. When you drive your car, you don't apologize to the car manufacturer. You just drive. English is yours. Claim it.
Claim it. That is the energy we want. But I want to ask, what happens when you do make a mistake?
And the real one.
You say the wrong word. You confuse the listener. What do you do if you can't say sorry?
That's a great question. Because mistakes will happen.
They will.
The alternative to sorry isn't ignoring the mistake. It's what we call repair. You use a repair strategy.
What does that look like?
If you say the wrong word, just correct it efficiently. You can say, I mean, or rather, or let me rephrase that.
So you fix it and move on.
You fix the data point and continue. You don't need the emotional baggage of, oh, I'm so sorry, my English is terrible today. Just say red, and keep talking.
Right. If I drop my pen, I don't give a speech about how clumsy I am and how I don't deserve to hold pens. I just pick it up.
Exactly. Just pick up the pen, just pick up the word. It's a mechanical error, not a moral failing.
And what about when you don't understand the other person? I think asking for clarification feels like a weakness to a lot of people.
We often see asking for help as a weakness, but in a business context, or any context really, it is a strength.
How so?
If I'm giving you instructions and you don't understand, I want you to ask me to repeat them. It saves time later. A confident speaker says, could you say that again? An insecure speaker just nods and hopes they guessed right.
Exactly. Asking for clarification is confronting the situation. It shows you are engaged and you care about getting the details right.
It's a repair strategy for listening. Sorry, is hiding. Could you repeat that? Is engaging.
Right.
It creates a collaborative environment rather than an isolating one. When you apologize, you isolate yourself in your insecurity. When you ask for clarification, you invite the other person to help you build meaning.
Collaborative versus isolating. I think that sums up the difference perfectly.
It really does.
As we wrap up this deep conversation, we'll have to move to our outro and leave our listeners with some final empowerment. We've covered a lot of ground, from the psychology of fear to the reality of native speech to the beauty of accents and practical repair strategies.
It's been a lot.
If you had to summarize the core message for our listener today, what would it be?
The core message is this. Your English does not need to be perfect to be valuable. Your voice creates value. Your ideas create value. Your ability to connect creates value. Your grammar is just the packaging. Do not let the packaging stop you from delivering the gift.
I love that.
Your voice deserves to be heard. Accent, mistakes, pauses, and all.
Beautifully said. Do not let the packaging stop you from delivering the gift.
And we have a challenge for you. We always like to give you homework, but this isn't a grammar exercise.
No, this one's different.
This is a mindset exercise. For your next conversation in English, whether it's a big meeting or just a chat with a friend, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Do not apologize.
Cold turkey.
Yeah.
Even if you make a mistake, even if you stumble, even if you have to ask the other person to wait a second while you find a word.
Just push through.
Just push through it. Smile, take a breath, and keep speaking. Notice how it feels. Notice that the world doesn't end. Notice that the other person is still listening. That is the challenge. Just speak. We are so proud of you for showing up today, for listening to this practice, and for doing the hard work of learning a language. It's not easy, but it is worth it.
It's absolutely worth it. You are doing great. Keep going.
Thank you all for listening to ESL Listening Practice. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.